small dagger. No one stopped him. He entered the train station and made his way to the platform. The hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. He was being followed, and he had a suspicion that more enemies surrounded him. Still, he didn't slow. He reached the car and took the steps up and inside. He walked through car after car until he found one that was nearly filled to capacity. He went to the very back and took a spot opposite a mother with a toddler in the seat facing him. Luca nodded in greeting. He glanced to his side to see 3 men in their early 20s, wearing jeans and hoodies. One listened to music or something through earbuds. Another was reading. The third played on his phone. They looked unassuming, which meant they were most likely people he needed to be wary of. He sat back and looked out the window. His thoughts skidded to Vladimir again, and he wondered if his old friend had gotten away. Despite the normalcy around him, Luca was on high alert. He knew better than most how a good operative could get a job done, even in a crowd. The moment the train began to roll, his senses became even more heightened. If this were his mission, he'd wait several minutes before he made his move. He would give the prey a sense of security and let them think they had gotten away. Just a few minutes into the ride, the mother across from him made a sound and spoke softly to the child. The harried woman gave him an apologetic look as she shifted the cumbersome toddler, who was now whining. She shushed the boy, rocking him. As she moved, she knocked over her coat and bag. He smiled and continued studying the other passengers while the mother shifted the child and tried to gather her items. "Excuse me," the mother said, just loud enough to get his attention. Luca's gaze slid to her, and his brows rose in question. "Would you mind getting the bag for me, please? I don't want to wake him," she said, looking at the child who now lay limply across her chest. Without question, he bent to retrieve the bag and coat. No sooner had he leaned over than he felt something sharp near his ribs. He froze, unable to believe what had just happened. He tried to sit up, but he couldn't move. Blood flowed, thick and hot, from the wound in his side. As he struggled for breath, he managed to turn his head to look at the mother. She was gone. The only thing left was a lifelike doll he had mistaken for a real child. His last thought, as his eyes closed, was that there was no escaping the monsters. Chapter 2. Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Today. There were monsters in the world. Max knew that all too well. He surveyed the bustling city at night, the tourists moving from one hot spot to another. The red light district teemed with people until the narrow alleys were nearly bursting. People watched the scantily clad women in the windows, some curious, some judging, and others not bothering to hide their hunger. Some feared the night because they knew there were horrors there. Most believed that's when the monsters came out to play. And they did. But the real beasts, the brutes, so evil, so morally corrupt that there was no saving their souls, well, they preferred the daytime. This was the second night in a row that Max had taken to the streets. He'd been restless since he got the encrypted text the day before. He wasn't even sure why it had been sent to him. After decoding it and figuring out that it had come from Luca, Max had been even more confused. He'd met Luca only twice. The older man seemed nice enough for a spy. Any words exchanged between them had been for business and nothing more. So why had Luca sent that cryptic text? And how did he even get Max's number? Max initially thought it might have been done on accident. Then he'd heard that Luca had been murdered on a train. Max leaned his shoulder against the corner of a building and looked down at his mobile. The screen only had 2 words: "Watch yourself." He put the phone away and blew out a breath. No matter